shake them. Will everyone please stand and welcome Brother Bharata, who will present his Satsang this morning, and his discourse is going to be on what is the Guru and why do I need one?
Can we have a moment of silence? On behalf of my master, my Savior Bhagwan Afrika, I'd like to welcome everybody. My topic today is what is the Guru and what do I need him or it for? I know I spent a lot of time being gurued by people before I came to the path in different areas of my life, and they always, at all times, showed me how to reinforce this ego that I got. So I know that the guruing process does work. So that's my experience. One of the reasons I chose this topic is because in speaking to some of my fellow Radasis and on some of the telephone saver, one thing and then just a different satsang, just in regular conversation, one of the things that kept coming up was that it seemed like, and this is my perception, that some of us had an idea about what the Guru was that wasn't really consistent with what the teachings say the Guru and what the Master said the Guru is. And so I just wanted to do this topic because I wanted to be sure that I had a clear understanding of what it's about. I've heard people say things like, I was heading down this street and then instead of turning left, I turned right. Boy, Bhagwan should be moving me. And I just wanted to just reiterate what the Master has said, what all the mystics have said, is that body that gives satsang and meets us, does one-on-ones, and has initiated us. The body itself is not the Guru. That Bhagwan Afrika, the body is not the Guru. That what the Guru is something that comes through that vessel. And so I got a bunch of quotes and different things from the teachings on some of these books under here, and then I'm gonna, when we get through, I guess it'll be a good time to open it for questions and answers. Well, questions anyway. I don't have nobody any answers. So the definition of Guru, as the Master has given us and what the mystics say in all the teachings that I've read, is that the Guru is the light that dispels darkness. And what that presupposes to me is that I am in a state of darkness, and that as long as I do not have some force to come and shine light into this state that I'm in, that I'm going to stay in the state of darkness. And, you know, I really, from what I've seen, the state of darkness that I'm in is very, very uncomfortable. I don't like it, and I don't want to be in this. So I'm grateful that the Master found me. One of the first quotes that I have, and I'm going to put my specs on so I can see this, is out of the book of Ra, where the Master talks about the greatness and the necessity of the spiritual master, and it talks about what the guru is. It says, first of all, in all of us, with no exception, there lies dormant at the core of our being, our own inner true teacher. This true teacher is the Satguru, as the Hindu mystics call him, and has been with you since the time of your coming into being, of falling into the delusion of samsara, and has been trying to retrieve us. That inner teacher, Satguru, which is a manifestation of that which is divine in you, has been reaching out and trying to rescue us from our own plight. It has never been separated from you. It has never been absent. This inner teacher is not passive. It's active and has been trying in every conceivable manner to bring us back into our own state of enlightenment. The miracle is that the inner true teacher residing in the core of our being, which we call Satguru, manifests itself in the form of a human being. A special kind of human being that has become egoless and therefore can function like a passage. What the teachings say about these masters is that God is, in its own mysterious way, constantly reaching into creation to reclaim these forms that have lost their way, that have lost their real sense of identity. And that in itself is a miracle and a mystery. It's been called the Leela, you know, because in trying to explain it, it's unfathomable, as the Master would say, why God does this and why God puts us in this condition in the first place, and then decides that I'm going to retrieve you. And it's just the Leela of the Marge of the Creator. So this energy that is God, this all everything, finds at some time or another a vessel that has been cleaned up enough so that it can bestow and give its grace to the rest of us who need it through this vessel. You know, there are two kinds of human beings they talk about who get this grace. There are some that, well, the grace comes in a couple of different ways. There are some that this grace can come directly from the unembodied, even some directly from God itself. And then there is me, who needs someone in my human form that I can relate to, because, you know, it's just too much stuff in me to get it directly like that. So the whole idea is that, you know, the grace shines down when the Master comes, finds me, and then decides that I'm going to reclaim this one, and that one, and that one, and that one. And it's just a wonderful, marvelous thing. I got a lot of quotes here, so, and I'm going to leave some time at the end so we could have some questions and answers and stuff. I got a lot of time, I see. Thought I was going to be able to get away with that, but I'm not. So here it is in the philosophy of sadhana. The Master talks again about what and how this divine grace works. From our discussion thus far, it should now become clear that there are at least two possible ways in which divine grace can descend on the individual being from the highest source, the Supreme Lord. Either it may come directly to the individual being without the intervention of any external mediating factor, as in the case of unembodied beings in the higher levels, or in the case of embodied human beings, it may be made available through the medium of some other human being who possesses a purified body-mind apparatus, and hence has attained the highest spiritual knowledge. and then acts as an agency, a murti, for its transmission. The guru is, at least in theory, a concrete force representing the principle of the compassionate grace of the Supreme Lord. And when the Supreme Lord adopts the concrete medium of a human body to perform the function of dispensing his grace on individual beings, then that particular embodied being becomes the guru force, or the incarnation of divine grace. The living master, guru, is considered human on the basis of the transient form of his medium, a body-mind, adopted by the Supreme Lord, and divine in consideration of the guru principle, which functions in and through that particular human body-mind medium. So, is there another one? Yeah, there's another one. So the guru is not the body of the man or the woman. The guru is the very embodiment of the power of Almighty God. Such a being has the ability to transmit the energy of God's grace to others, to awaken the dormant power of the other's own divine self. Thus, the human gurus are the principal source and means for achieving supreme spiritual knowledge. From what I got from what's being said there, this guru force resides in all of us. This, at the inner core of all of our being, is this divine spark or divine candle that's ready to be sparked. And what the guru simply does is it comes and sparks it. But when the guru shows up, the guru is nothing but an outside reflection of what's already there inside of me, inside of us. And so it's not that the guru comes and he has something that I don't have in terms of at the core of its being. What the guru comes to do is to awaken me to know that I am just like him. The master comes and through this, with this guru force, comes just to shake me and wake me up. And if anybody in here is like me, I don't like to be shaken and woken up. As a matter of fact, give me 5 more minutes. And then give me 5 more minutes. And then give me 5 more minutes. And I have spent the best part of my life, the majority of my life, trying to get them 5 more minutes. Because when I was called to be awakened, I always resisted. And there's still resistance. I mean, I don't like what I got to do to wake up. I'd rather stay asleep, because this is how I've been. So to wake up takes effort. And I've never really been one big on effort. I've been, things in my life have come kind of easy. So I've always taken the easy path, only a couple of things I've ever done that took real effort. And both of them were unpleasant. So I don't have a great track record with effort. Excuse me. So, and having these masters come to do this, they have already been through this process. So they not only know how to do it, they also know how to transmit it. And they transmit it through a number of ways, through the guru's words, through the master's words, through their just their mere presence, through their satsang, and they give us these techniques to do, and the techniques themselves are simply aids that in order me to take some of this crap out of me that's covering up that divine me that's really inside. Sometimes there have been times when I felt like I wasn't deserving of having this divine me uncovered, and so how it showed up in my life was that I would resist what the guru was offering, and I would resist it because, and would say that I couldn't do it because I didn't think that I truly deserved it, and so I would just fight it, because why me? I don't deserve this. You know, there was that self-contempt inside and it blocked that force that was coming through. The masters always quoted Maharaji as saying that what we are is like a light bulb with a bunch of scars over it. And what the gurus do is they come simply and remove those scars. And the light has always been shining, it's just never been able to shine through until that ignorance gets removed. And that's what it is ignorance. And, you know, all my life I always thought that ignorance was a bad thing in terms of it was negative, and it meant it was saying a reflection of the kind of human being in terms of my worth. And, you know, I've come to understand that ignorance simply means I don't know. And if I don't know, I don't know. And that's what these gurus come to do. They come to help me to know, you know, help me to know myself, you know. And all the resistance that I've come up with has mostly to do with the fact that, you know, I just don't like the way they do it. I wish they would find a different way. It's basically what I will, you know, could you just do it a little bit easier? You know, maybe you could just come by and just tap me on my forehead or something, and then I'll be in the mix. But that's not the way it works. So I'm going to say some more about what these gurus are. And this is also from the book of Ra. It says, in effect, when these gurus come, in effect, what you're really doing is opening up to your own inner self that otherwise could not break through the layers of ignorance and emotional confusion that imprison you. I can identify with that. Excuse me. But the outer master is much more than just a manifestation and reflection of your inner Sadguru. The outer master is also the channel through which the blessings of all the Buddhas and masters from time immemorial reach and become available to you. So, like I was saying before, that these masters they don't come to give us something that we don't already possess. They simply come to uncover that that's stopping me from realizing that I possess it. It's like somebody, if I got a bunch of money in my pocket and I don't know what's there, somebody comes to remind me that, hey, you got money, you know, and I'm out here searching for money every place else. It simply remind me that you got it already, you know, and pull off the stuff that I need pulled off so that I can realize it. Because it's not that, as the master says, it's not that I'm not God, it's that I don't know that I'm God. And what these gurus do, they come to wise me up, to let me know that I am God. No matter what I think I am, that's not what I am. You see, I got a bunch of papers and stuff, y'all. So. This is from, and I don't know where I got this from. I got a lot of stuff. And I don't know where I got this from, but somebody put out a printout from the book, From the Path of the Masters, and I don't remember who did it, but thank you, whoever it was. And it talks about how and why the guru comes in the form that it does come. Can God himself converse with you as man with man without first becoming man? And that's from page 189 of Path of the Masters. Each man is a potential saint and is therefore potentially identical with the Supreme. Page 190. And it quotes the great master Jesus in saying that Jesus said, I and the Father are one, and there are many sons of God. In the process of their development, all masters simply expand the godlike qualities with which they in common have with all other men. Moreover, every man has in him, and woman, has in him the latent possibilities of such expansions to become a son of God. So what they're saying is that what the great master Jesus did and who he was, that I too have the potential inside of me to be and to reach that same condition that the great master did. These masters come to show us in human form what the condition of peace looks like, what the condition of God realization looks like, and to use that in the human form because I can identify with that. So there's one more quote I have from one of my many books down here. And this is from the Holy Quran. And everybody knows the Holy Quran, right? Okay. And this is from Surah 18, Al-Kahf, in verse 110. And this is the Holy Prophet talking to his son God. Say, I am but a man like yourselves, but the inspiration has come to me that your God is one God. Whoever expects to meet his Lord, let him work righteousness, and in the worship of his Lord, admit no one as partner. This thing, worship, has taken on a lot of connotations throughout these many histories that all these religious traditions and mystic traditions have come through. And from the understanding that I've got up to this point, worship and devotion can be used interchangeably. Thank you, Bonnie. And devotion, it says in the book of Ra, it says devotion is like the uninterrupted receptivity of what the master is offering. And I'll just paraphrase that. And it is not, this bhakti, this devotion is not an emoting, and it's not an emotional thing, because those emotional things, they rise and they fall, and they come and they go. And if my emotions are good and I'm feeling good about the master, then I want to, I'm crying all about him, and all I want to do is talk about how wonderful he is. If it's emotional driven, as soon as he does something, says something that I don't like, then I want to fight him. I want to get a hit put out on him or something. And that lets me know that it's an emotional thing. It rises and falls with my emotions, and that's not devotion. Devotion is being able to be receptive to the master's instructions and then follow them. And devotion, the key to devotion is following the instructions. It's not about saying I want to follow the instructions. Well, it's not just about saying I want to follow the instructions. It's not just about saying that, I'm really down with this. I really want to be in this. I really want to do what you say, Master. It's about actually following the instructions. And to the degree that I follow the Master's instructions, to that the same degree, I am being gurued, and I am showing devotion. And if no following of instructions, no devotion. And when I'm not following the Master's instructions, I'm not being gurued. In all those times that I'm not in the process and not following his instructions, I am not being gurued. And I need to say that for myself, to be clear on that. I'm not. I don't care what I say. I don't care if I am initiated. He is not my guru in those times. I'm my own guru in those times. We talked about in the past about there are manmukhs and gurumukhs. And the gurumukhs are those who follow the instructions of the guru. And the manmukhs are those who follow the instructions of the own mind. And my mind has got me in some spots that, it's got my butt in some spots that it just couldn't get out of without all kinds of intervention and divine grace. So I want to talk now a little bit about how these gurus, how these masters do their thing, how they do what they do. And then I'll talk about, what do I need one for? No laughter. Okay. I did a workshop once before that everyone just loved. And the workshop was on the 7 stages of what happens when we encounter the guru. And so I thought I'd revisit that since everybody loved it so much. There are 7 stages of what happens when we encounter a guru or the path. And all of these stages cause drama in my life as an ego. They always cause drama. And when the master said a couple of weeks ago at Satsang, or it was a week ago at Satsang, a couple of weeks ago at Satsang, when he said that, yeah, that's what's supposed to happen, that I'm not supposed to like it, well then I knew that that it was okay then, you know. And I heard a lot of other people talk about the fact that made it okay for them, that they were glad to hear that, because they thought that they were some kind of wretched soul because they were having so much struggle and resistance and didn't want to do it, and it was causing so much drama in their life. Well, guess what? That's exactly what's supposed to happen. The Master used the analogy of, that's like trying to lift weights and exercise without sweating. If I don't sweat, then I'm obviously not doing it. So if I hear somebody, you know, say that man, I'm having a hard time with this path, I'm struggling with this and that, you know, the best thing that I can say is good. That means that you're actually trying to do something, you know. That means that you're actually, because if you're not struggling, if I'm not struggling, that means I'm not trying to do anything. You know, I'm just sitting on my butt. So it's always good. When you hear your fellow Radasi say that they're having a hard time, pat them on the back and encourage them. Yeah, that's good. It's going to get worse. Tell them it's going to get worse. And because that's good. That means that there's a struggle going on. There's an ego struggle happening there, and that's good. So this is what happens when the ego encounters the guru. The first step is catalyst. A spark happens, and we talked about that. What the guru does is spark that which is already inside, and it's like lighting a flame. You know, what happens is that in the condition I am, I'm not able to even see that I don't have the right view of things. I simply don't. And what the Master comes to do is to simply give me the right view. I can't of my own find the right view. I can't get the right view just on my own. The only way that that can happen is that it has to be given to me. And the Master does that through his initiation, through appearing in my life and upsetting my nice, wonderful life that I thought I had. You know, he starts giving me stuff to do that I don't like. But that's what happens. The spark happens, and that's the catalyst. The second step is cataleptic. And what happens in that step is that all my old accustomed ways start to shut down. Anybody relate to what I'm talking about? These old accustomed ways of mine start to shut down. They stop working. I stop being able to derive the same kind of juice, the same kind of pleasure that I used to get from them. They no longer work. You know, I can't indulge myself in them and to the extent that I used to and get the same charge out of them, because now I know that I'm starting to see something. That spark has happened, and I'm starting to see that these things are temporary. They come into being, and they're not going to last long. And usually, I'm more miserable after they happened than I was before they happened. And so they stop working. So they start shutting down. You know, and that's physically, emotionally, and mentally. You know, what happens with the sadhana that the Master gives us, 3 things will usually challenge the beginning meditator. These 3 things still challenge me. At the physical level, it can hurt. It can hurt the body. I just grew a corn that's killing me, so it's really making it problematic because I have to adjust my sitting all the time. Emotionally, I have to deal with the boredom of it all, because unless I have the understanding of what this sadhana is for and what I'm trying to accomplish when I sit there, what I'm attempting to accomplish when I sit there, then it is boring. But it's only with that understanding that I realize that it's not boring at all. You know, when I first started sitting, you know, it was just boredom. Just pure boredom. I mean, I could think of, and it was so much so that I could think of a million things I could be doing that would be a lot more exciting than sitting here, you know. So that's what happens with the emotions. They start getting bored. And then the challenge mentally, of course, is the doubt. You know, I start doubting myself. I can't do this, you know. And then I start doubting the guru. Well, you know, maybe he had given me the wrong stuff. You know, maybe the sadhana he giving me ain't the good sadhana. He's saving the good sadhana for somebody else. You know, or maybe he don't know what he's talking about. How do he know what he's talking about? You know, he don't look like he's no different than nobody else to me. So once I start doubting myself, I'm automatically going to doubt him. You know, definitely going to doubt him. So what happens is that, you know, I might leave, you know, I might start spreading rumors that he don't know what he's talking about. And the thing that I start doing mostly of all, though, is I start editing the instructions. That's the thing that normal, the ordinary seeker does. It starts editing the instructions to fit, you know, their own personality, you know. And so I start taking some of this and leaving that, you know. And then the stuff that I like to do, I'm going to do that to the best of my ability. And the other stuff, well, I'll get to that, but not right now. So my old accustomed ways start to shut down. The third step is a catharsis, that the feelings that were once suppressed begin to surface. It's also been called the dark night of the soul. It's where that shadow material starts coming up. The Master talked about once in a workshop about how the shadow material comes up. And the shadow material is that about myself, which I suppress or deny or hide in some kind of way. Stuff I don't like about myself, and I don't want it to come up because I don't want it to be showing all over the place. And so I push it far enough down that I say that that's not part of me. That's not who I am. That's not even a part of who I am. So these things start to surface. And what they started to do is they start to surfacing to such a degree that they come out of the shadow, and then everybody starts to see them. So when they start coming up like that, now I can't deny it anymore. You know, now I can't defend myself. When Bhakti Maharaj says, "What Bharata Ji, you know, you still kicking it with your anger. What's going on, man?" Well, I'm not angry. I'm not angry at you. You know, I can't say it anymore. I can't do it anymore. I can't get away with that stuff anymore because my shadow stuff is starting to come up. And that's the guru shining that light, you know, on that shadow. And you know what happens when you shine the light on a shadow? So that's what starts to happen. Those things that was once in me that I've been suppressing start to coming up. And that dark night of the soul is horrendous. That, as a matter of fact, I'm reading a book, The Dark Night of the Soul by St. John of the Cross. That's I would recommend that for anybody who likes to read. It's a heck of a thing that happens when that utter despair kicks in. And the utter despair looks like, I can't go back to the way I was because I'm getting nothing from that. And I'm not yet where I want to go. And so I'm like stuck out there, you know, being buffeted by all the forces that are out there. And it ain't pretty. And it can be very, very depressing when I start seeing all my crap up and it's out. And I start seeing what kind of human being I truly am. And I'm start coming face to face with that stuff. And then wanting to be somewhere else, but not there yet, it's like, I got to go through it. And that's what happens. I have to go through it. And there's no way around that. I simply have to go through it. The fourth step that happens in the encounter with the master is called chaos. Now this is total fear and confusion. Upset, troubled, angry, shame. I want to just get out of here. And what happens in the step of chaos is that the ego is actually starting to break down. I mean, these things that I've seen when they come up, they're starting now to start to break down. And in the breaking down of them, there's a lot of shame there. There's a lot of shame because now I start seeing that I'm not this great person that I thought I was. And I feel bad about that, you know. I start really wanting to go hide. So I may start isolating myself. I may start doing things like lying about whether or not I'm doing my sadhana, you know, because I'm ashamed of what's really going on with me. One of the most interesting things that came about for me during this cooler process that the master gave us was the level of truth that started surfacing. And that was the best. That was so good. You know, in our particular cooler, we made a conscious effort to start off putting it all out there. And because we did that, we started off that way, and we set a standard for ourselves that we could not go backwards. You know, we started being as honest as we could be, and what that did was cause a lot of stuff to come up. A lot of shame came up for folks, for me. A lot of guilt came up for people. And it was okay, you know, because what would happen, we had a context, a safe context in which we could talk about these things, in which we could share these things, and which these things we could put out there with people we trust, you know. And it became, those coolers actually became refuge. They actually did, because the level of honesty that started coming up was just amazing. And when I started seeing my lust, my greed, my vanity, well, I had seen my vanity, but when I started seeing my lust, my greed, my attachment, and my anger to the degree that I had them, then, you know, I was in a position where I had to do something about them, else I knew that they was going to overcome me, you know. And it's that moment of chaos that I really want to flee. I really didn't want to stay and have to deal with this stuff. I would have preferred that it just disappeared on its own. So what that let me know is that during that time of chaos, the ego is starting to break down, and that's a good thing. It don't feel good, but it's a good thing that's happening. You know, I say to Guru Radasi that, you know, and she says, well, you know, these things are going on, these things are going on, and I always say, good, Guru Radasi, that's good. That's what's supposed to happen. Now, I'm telling her it's good. But when that same stuff happened to me, it don't feel good, you know. So it is not like, you know, that it feels good. But I do know, you know, I have at least a little bit of understanding to understand that I got to go through it, that I can't go around it. I can't try to go under it, go over it. I can't circumvent it. I got to go through it. And to the degree that I surrender myself to the notion that I got to go through it, then that will speed up my going through it. If I resist, then all that does is slow down the process, and I stay in it longer. Man, that's some heat, man. My feet freezing. I just talk louder. All right. I believe you might be able to hear me over that thing. Thank you. So during that fourth stage of chaos, that's when the ego really starts to break down. Really troubled, really angry. I'm angry now. I'm really pissed at the guru now, because he didn't give me this stuff. He gave me this stuff, and the way he made it sound was like this was going to be a beautiful, beautiful romantic journey. And then you read the literature. I read the literature, The Path of the Masters, or some of the other books, and they talk about, oh, this is just so marvelous, and they talk about how wonderful it is in Satsang and all the wonderful things that happen. And so I got sucked in. But it's too late now, because I'm starting to see some stuff. So now I got to do something about it. You know, I can't stay in that condition because it's too painful. It's just too painful. So I got to move. So that's when we come to the fifth step, which is the cross. We hear about how the great Master Jesus had to carry his cross. Well, guess what? On this path, we got to carry the cross. And we got to carry our cross in the sense of the ego is actually dying now, and I'm starting to die to my old self. And there's a lot of anger. I mean, this is the preeminent emotion during this time is anger. Because now I got to do this stuff. I'm hooked, and I got to carry this stuff, and I got to do something about my anger, and I got to do something about my lust and attachment and greed. And why don't everybody else just change? Why I got to change? You know, why don't you just stop making me angry? You know, why don't you just leave me alone, and then I won't have to be changing? Why don't you change? And the ego is starting to die. I'm starting to die to that old self when this fifth stage happens. This fifth step happens, the step of the cross. And it's starting to dissolve. It's starting to dissolve. And you start getting a little glimpse of the possibilities. The possibilities is what keeps me going. The possibilities, when you get those little glimpses, and it's something there. It's something there to keep pushing at this point, because not quite, the ego is not dead, and it won't die at this stage. But I'm getting enough of a glimpse from what's happening if I go through this stuff, I'm getting enough of a glimpse to know that it's going to be worth it. But I got to go through it for it to be worth it. And it's still that hesitation, still a little hesitation there about going through it. But I know that I got to do it. I got to do it. So there's a lot of fear during this time because I can't go back to how I was. And the fear has to do, I don't know exactly what's up front. And from what's happening so far, it's scaring the crap out of me because what's starting to dawn on me now is that I only got to change one thing, right? I'm sorry. Everything. I only got to change that one thing, and that's everything. And that's scary. That scares me because I don't want to change all that stuff. You know, I'm comfortable with this. I've customized this piece here. You know, for 50 years I done had this, and I done worked it and tweaked it and got it to just the way I wanted. And now I got to drop it all. No, I don't want to do that. And I'm afraid that if I drop this, then what I'm going to be? Who am I going to be? Who will I be if not this ego, this Bharata G? Who will I be then? What will I be then? What will happen? What's going to happen to me? Will I be a zombie walking around, you know, bumping into stuff? Will I be, will I just be catatonic, just sitting, staring off into space all the time? What's going to happen? And the fear of not knowing what's going to happen is just, it's a gut-wrenching kind of fear. So I'm carrying that cross. I'm on my way up to Cavalry. You know, they're getting ready to hook me up. The sixth stage is the conversion, and that's when it starts. The transformation starts. We start to get those glimpses of that real self. And for the first time, meditation ain't quite a chore. I still would rather sleep, but it's not quite the chore that it was before. And I'm starting to see that because of these other steps, because of all the other stuff that has happened, that I'm starting to look and get a understanding about my anger, lust, and my greed and my attachment, at least to the point now that I can actually start doing something about them. And some of the fear in doing something about them is starting to subside. Because now, when I see myself manage my anger successfully, that's encouraging. Oh, I can actually manage my anger successfully. I'm not saying that about me. I'm saying this is what happens when we get to this step. What we start to see is that I can actually do some of this stuff. You know, I'm not in as bad shape as I once was. I've come a little ways now, you know. I'm able now to see my lust to the point that I can do something about it. And now it's the doing something about it that's the thing. And so the transformation has started. And in the scene that I can manage this anger or this lust or this greed, a little peace comes with that. Because now I'm not lost anymore. I got something I can work with now. You know, I can actually do something. I can actually, and all this is through the grace of the Master, I can actually affect a change in my life. I can actually do that. I can actually change something. And so now I'm not so lost, and a little of my self-doubt is starting to leave. And my faith in the Master is starting to increase. Because the transformation is starting. And it's starting to get more and more. And then finally, the seventh stage is Christ consciousness. And I ain't gonna say nothing about that. What I will say about that will be said when we talk about and praise the Master, because I don't know nothing about that. I can say something about what he said and what the mystics have said about this, and that what happens in that stage is that this jiva, we souls, we ordinary human beings, have now got to the point that we are divine and human in that one body. And it's totally different, the Master said, from playing at religion or playing at spirituality. The condition that's exhibited is exhibited through these gurus, through these masters. And they're being amongst us is a living example for us. You know, the masters often said that what you meditate upon, you become. And with the masters in our midst, I have something to meditate upon. I have something to copy, to duplicate. And not him, not Bhagwan. This duplication doesn't take the form of now I start talking like him, or start using his gestures, or I start dressing like him, or I start trying to walk like him. You know, it takes the form of duplicating his condition, his spiritual condition. You know, I don't start saying acha. You know, I don't start doing that kind of stuff. I start to duplicate the condition that this being is in, the spiritual condition, this condition of peace, this condition of clean mirror. You know, we're a bunch of personalities in our Sangha. We have about 35 people who are active, and that's 35 different personalities, 35 different ego formations. Isn't it amazing how one being can mirror all 35 of us and can become for each of us what it is that we need at that time, so that he may become for me. You know, I come to him with whatever I got. Oh, you know, he'll pat me. You know, oh, it's gonna be all right. Don't worry about it, beloved. And then he'll come to somebody who has a stronger ego and can handle the truth, and they'll say, well, you know, Master Mahavir, well, do it, get it done. What's the problem? And that's what happens. This being has dissolved the ego within itself and had it dissolved to the point that it now simply is a vessel through which this divine grace moves and impacts everything around it. And in that, it's able to reflect back on each one of us and give us exactly what we need at exactly the right time. Now the question becomes, then why don't I just take advantage of that? Well, because I don't like it. Because it takes work, it takes effort. And somewhere inside of me, I know that that's what's going to have to happen. The understanding has to reach a point where I break this identification with this ego. Because until the understanding reaches that point, where that I break this identification with this ego, with this body, mind, then I can't go anywhere. So the Master gives us the sadhana to help break the misidentification. And he also gives us sanyamas and tells us to do deep contemplation and study so that the understanding can increase. So it's both. It's both understanding and meditation. And that's all he's ever preached. Meditation and understanding. Understanding and meditation. Meditation, you ask him, well, Master, how do I do such and such and such? Meditate. Well, how do I do such and such? Your understanding must increase. Well, how do I meditate? And 6-7 years since I've been around, that's all he's ever said. We were looking at a tape back there from 1997 or 98 or something, and the stuff that he was saying then, I think Radasi was back then. She's new to the house, and she very quickly picked it up. She said, you know, where's this tape from? 1998, 97. She said, you know, that's the same stuff he's saying now. I said, yeah. I don't know what that says about us, but it definitely is the same thing. It's the same thing. Meditate. Understand. Well, Master, how can I do that? Meditate. Well, understand. Deepen the understanding. And they come together. And both of them, the purpose of them is to break this misidentification. Because in the breaking of the misidentification, that's when the peace starts happening. That's when the stuff starts happening. When I start breaking my identification with everything that goes with this body-mind, I start becoming identified with that which I truly am. Which I truly am. That's when the stuff starts happening, the peace. So that's what the mystics say about this Christ consciousness. On meeting these masters, and they put us through this stuff, another thing that happens, and I'll read this is from another article somebody sent called Meeting the Guru. And it very, very clearly sums up what these masters do. A master teaches without telling. And his or her physical proximity radiates an indescribable force. Those who were at the emotional self-management workshop that the master did, he talked about how this force, this energy, this force field that the heart generates around, this aura around a human being, how that impacts other human beings that come within that aura. He talked about how the Buddha, they said that the Buddha field was like 24 miles, and anything within 24 miles of him was affected by it. Dead plants would come back to life, all kinds of stuff. So there's a lot of talk about being in the presence of the master and keeping the company of the guru. Well, something I had to find out for myself was that this keeping the presence of the guru isn't just hanging out with Bhagwan and Soul Veg. It ain't running around behind him. That's not what keeping the presence of the guru is for real. The real keeping the presence of the guru has to do with what he's given us to do, with the bhajan, the dhyan, the simran. All these things are different forms of guru. And these things, when I stay in the process, I am keeping the company of the guru. Satsang is keeping, true satsang, is keeping the company of the guru. When I go inside, when the meditation gets to the point that I'm able to bring up the radiant form of the master, that's keeping the company of the guru. So it's not just that I'm going to be able to hang out with him and then I'm going to become enlightened. No. You know, no matter how powerful that force field is from the heart. You know, he talks about how Ananda was with the Buddha for I don't know how many years, 42 years or something like that. And he was right next to the Buddha almost all that time and never became enlightened in the Buddha's lifetime. So just being next to him ain't enough. It's keeping the company in the things that he's given us to do. Simran, bhajan, dhyan, satsang, staying in the process. That's keeping the company of the Guru. Remembering who I am, for real. That's keeping the company of the Guru. Because with the Guru is simply that which is that what I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to remember who I am at my inner core. The Guru is that, an outside reflection of that. So that's what keeping the company is really about. And we go back again to the Book of Ra. Let's see what they got to say about 633. Somebody said, let me go to this person, get a lot of information, and be on my way. The master talks about people coming for their bone. You have not understood. Deeper than the level of instruction is the example of the Guru. And that is the true value of the Guru's company. Through example, the Guru will show you how to live, how to meditate every morning. Because you don't know how to get up every morning and do meditation. They demonstrate or show you how to interact with your wife and your children, how to go to work. This is how you do this thing called living. And it says something here about Guru Bhakti, and I had mentioned this before, is that Guru Bhakti, the devotion, the love for the Guru, is not something that we emote. First of all, you do not emote it. Guru Bhakti is not something that you emote into, or that kind of thing. It's a very different thing. It is truly becoming capable of submitting to demands. You must surrender. If I am saying that I am devoted to the Guru, then what's going on is that I am submitting to the demands of the Guru. If I am not submitting to the demands of the Guru, I am not devoted to the Guru. I am not showing devotion. I don't care how much I cry when he comes around. I don't care how much I'm running up behind him. I don't care how much I'm doing all that stuff. How many gifts I bring him. If I am not submitting to the demands, I am not devoted. So, I said that for me. So now, these masters, these gurus, they come and they pretty much give their life to their disciples. They pretty much, as the master has told us time and time again, he puts us before he puts his own family. He has come to satsangs and different gatherings first, before he handled his own family business. We know that. We know that, and he'll do it just like that. And one of the things that he said, I don't know how many satsangs ago, was that I always have time for you. You don't have time for me. And that was, to me, that just said it all. Is that he understands what this is about. He understands that it's about devotion, about being of service, about using that force that emanates to touch other lives and to trigger that in other people. And I haven't got there yet. So the last thing I want to talk about is the praises of these masters and how they have been praised throughout all the sacred texts from all kinds of different traditions. This is the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying by Sojo Rinpoche, and the Buddhists talk about what happens with a master. In this tradition, they say they revere their master even more. They revere their master for being even kinder than the Buddhas themselves. One of the things about it is that these Buddhas and Christ and Holy Prophet, these masters are no longer with us. And so we can't go to them and get what we get from our master. We can't go to them and ask a bunch of questions. We can't go to them and you know, tell them all of our problems. I don't know what that is. What is that? Oh, okay. So this will be quick. Although the compassion and power of the Buddhas are always present, our obscurations prevent us from meeting the Buddhas face to face. And these Buddhas is, you know, well, you see. But we can meet the Master. He or she is here, living, breathing, speaking, acting before us to show us, in all the ways possible, the path of the Buddhas, the way to liberation. Sojo Rinpoche says, for me, my masters have been the embodiment of living truth, undeniable signs that enlightenment is possible in a body, in this life, in this world, even here and even now. The supreme inspirations in my practice, in my work, in my life, and in my journey toward liberation. My masters are for me the embodiments of my sacred commitment to keep enlightenment foremost in my mind until I actually achieve it. I know enough to know that only when I reach enlightenment will I have a complete understanding of who they really are and of their infinite generosity, love, and wisdom. And quickly from Sarmad. Sajyoba talks about the master. Without the master, you cannot travel the path. Without the master, you cannot get knowledge. Without the master, Sajio says, everything is dark, ignorance. Kabir Sahib, even if I turn this entire planet into paper, and all the forests into pen holders, and all the 7 seas into ink, I would not be able to describe the greatness of the master. And almost last but not least, we're just gonna have a shorter period for questions, that's all. From the Dhammapada on the greatness of the master, the saint. This describes what the saint is, the master is. He has completed his voyage. He has gone beyond sorrow. The fetters of life have fallen from him and he lives in full freedom. The thoughtful strive always. They have no fixed abode, but leave home like swans from their lake. Like the flight of birds in the sky, it's hard to follow the path of the selfless. They have no possessions, but live on alms in a world of freedom. Like the flight of birds in the sky, it's hard to follow their path. With their senses under control, temperate in eating, they know the meaning of freedom. Even the gods envy the saints, whose senses obey them like well-trained horses and who are free from pride. Patient like the earth, they stand like a threshold. They are pure like a lake without mud and free from the cycle of birth and death. Wisdom has stilled their minds and their thoughts and words or deeds are filled with peace. And I'm going to finish all the readings with this short piece, and then I'm going to ask you to join and you'll see. This is from my favorite poet, Rumi. And Rumi says, in describing the master, who sees inside from outside? Who finds hundreds of mysteries even where minds are deranged? See through his eyes what he sees. Who then is looking out from his eyes?
It shall be said, may the Lord take all of us across this ocean of faith and turn us all to the condition that is.
That's the middle one under there. Right there. So, we have some time. Oh, we got a lot of time.
So glad to hear you mention Bruce Bobby, your our beloved Dr. Lodge, and talking about Mary Magdalene last week. Good talk. Mary Magdalene being mentioned devotion is the unbroken and uninterrupted receptivity to the truth. This unbrokenness and uninterrupted state of remaining in the presence, in the company, in the process. Whenever we stray from that, know with all certainty that the mind is free. The great Master Jesus said to take the thought for thyself. This life, this path that we travel, is that of, you mentioned the ending of exhibiting our old accustomed ways. The school of Bhakti Yoga is that which counteracts the end of the process. My understanding of there is a distinction between worship and devotion. If you could clarify that, Brahmani made use of a word that, I'm not understanding that. Devotion and worship. I'm not clear on that.
Well, and I said that they were interchangeable. Prambani just gave me the word I was looking for, which was interchangeable.
Interchangeable. I'm not understanding that.
Okay, well, if I am in devotion, I am worshiping.
What is your understanding of worship?
Is to be in devotion. I mean, for me, they're interchangeable. It is the act of showing devotion.
I think Guru Sahib says something that puts it better, more concomitant phenomena. It's like one does not exist without the other.
There you go. Thank you, Bhakti Mani. Yeah, one does not exist without the other.
I'm not clear on what worship is, man, because my understanding of worship is something other than
Devotion.
It being possible that which I am worship, I cannot duplicate. That it stands alone in and of itself. It's beyond my capacity to attain this state. That's my understanding of worship. I see it as something totally different and, have mercy on my ignorance.
The Unsaba had his hand, and then I think Mookie has the definition. Or
I just see in number 67, he also published number 67.
go ahead, Unsaba.
I was going to say that my understanding of worship would be to hold something high and to be reverent of, and to keep our focus on it. And in the same way, from the way you describe devotion, it lines up that we're to keep our focus on the Master, keep our focus on the presence. And so I see where it's interchangeable.
Okay. I'll give you something from the
Yes, please.
From the Bani.
I don't understand.
Okay.
I don't understand.
And the Master answers, and Maharaji talks about meditation. Right here, he says there's a very inferior type of meditation, inferior type of worship of the Lord. We should worship Him because we love Him, because we want to go back and merge into Him. With that devotion and love, we should try to worship Him. the devotion has to be there in order for us to worship him. Now, right here, in Philosophy of the Masters, worship. Worship means to serve or praise some higher and sublimer being than oneself in order to gain spiritual benefit. So the idea is that that's not separate. That's just a higher, like the master is a higher, more sublime form of me, you. You know, it's not that that thing is separate and I'm worshiping it. It's separate. It's that that's just a higher form of what's already there. Thank you. Yeah.
You know, the seven,
Mm-hmm.
okay. I looked at it a little different this time than I did before, which I mean, I looked at it as a whole picture, like that this is how we go through in order to achieve this. This time it seemed like I could identify where I've gone through step 1 through 5 in almost everything in my life. You know, that it's, those steps have been there. And it, do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It was a little different this time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what I was saying. Even before I came to the path, I had a guru. In the sense of somebody who was showing me a condition that I wanted to duplicate.
Right.
You did, you know, if it was the dope man, it was my partner who taught me how to get high. So I've always had somebody who showed me a condition, and this is what it looks like to nod. You know, this is what it looks like to gamble. This is what it looks like to do whatever. And so it's not like this whole concept is, what's different is that this is much more sublime. This is a real thing.
And even with this, within this, the things that I go through in this, they're broken down in those
Same steps.
say 7 steps.
Mm-hmm.
When you were defining, in the beginning, you made a statement that in order to be guru, you needed to have an understanding of what guru is. And based on what you said and based on what I've read about that, and looking at the guru and understanding that the guru is not the physical body or the personality, then it gives you a greater level of to move with the practices, you know, because now you know that it's not about just this physical being that sits, that woos you, but it's about actually following, because the instructions is not different. If I'm understanding correctly, the instructions of the guru and the demands of the guru is not different from guru itself. So
Yeah.
it gives you a better basis for practice.
And because it brings it out of the woo-woo stage, you know, and to something real concrete, that this is a being who this force is coming through almost undiluted. And that he's demonstrating it in a body, because I got a body. I need to see a demonstration in a body. You know, the only thing I know about God is a concept of what God is. You know, I can't interact directly with God in that sense. You know, I can't get a slice of God, you know, make a sandwich, you know. But I can see what the condition looks like to be realizing my true condition by looking at that body. What it looks like in the body, that's what it looks like.
And you get the opportunity to actually verify that.
Right.
Because without verification, it's still not concrete.
Yeah. And one of the things I think that sold me on the master was that when he would say all the time, don't believe what I say. He would say, look, don't believe this. Blind faith is useless. Don't believe nothing I say. Check it out. Verify for yourself. And if you get something better, or you see that what I'm saying is not so, bring it back. You know, I follow you. You know, so And that's what I like. That now that resonates with me. The idea that I get a chance to find out for myself about this, and he's not asking me to just take his word for anything. Matter of fact, don't take my word for it. Is what he's saying.
And it lines up with what every other saint said.
Every master of all time, from the great master Jesus to the holy prophet, peace be upon him, Buddha, everybody has always said.
Yeah, I saw that. It was even in the Quran.
In the
Because I
Quran?
haven't visited any of those books that you have, but they all pretty much, it lines up with everything that's being said here and Radaswami and all of the literature. It lines all up.
It all lines up. Yes. Good.
When you started off, you said, I was walking down the street and I started to go to the right, but I went to the left and Guru made me blah, 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 blah. And then you clarified that that was not what the Guru does. I disagree. Now, I'm not saying that's what the Guru does, but
Then what you disagreeing with?
I don't know. But see, because
He didn't say the guru, he said Bhagwan.
I said Bhagwan.
Yeah,
Right.
oh,
yeah.
you're right. But then what I wanted to add to that was, and it's as if Bhagwan does it, true enough. The Guru does. And I guess where I'm taking this is that, and I have to say, I say that, you know, when I belch, I said, you know, thank you, Guru Sahib. When I, you know, and I'm not thanking Guru Sahib Bhagwan, but I'm saying to this force, to this, whatever it is that guides and makes a way for us, that makes me breathe and have my being and all this other kind of stuff, that's who I'm thanking. Because were it not for that, I would be walking out in the middle of the street in traffic. So I just wanted to and I missed what you said. That's why I'm even mentioning this, because you said Bhagwan, it's not the physical that we see and say that this is another man or person, etc., etc., etc. But it's what he represents.
What comes through that body?
You know, I think one important thing about it, and Guru Sahib has said this many times about making fantasy, or I'm not sure on what he says, but you know, they're like, we want to make it magical or you know, and make things the way that they're not. So there needs to be some distinction. There needs to be some clarity on that issue. And I think that was a good point. You know, and I do understand what you're saying, but I do think that we need to be clear that it's not anything mystical or magical about it, right?
It's the way it is. That's not what something.
And hopefully I did make that distinction, hopefully.
It did for me.
Okay.
I missed you. I was asleep.
Oh,
When
okay.
you started. I'm sorry. You're with me.
Your question? I'm sorry.
What I really liked, Bharata G, was when you said you was beginning to see your ego dissolve. I really liked that. You know, it took some time, you know, but you said you're beginning to see it actually dissolve.
I didn't say I was beginning to see mine.
She talking about herself or you?
Yeah.
In that stage.
In that stage, and I just use myself as an example of somebody who might be going through those stages. I would,
Bharata G, I thought you were saying yours was dissolved. Well, I did.
I just ask my family, they'll tell you.
I was getting all happy for you.
I really did.
his vanity is dissolving somewhere.
I think that, I was gonna say, I
Yeah.
think that some of it is dissolving, just at some degree, yeah. Oh, yeah,
You
you're
can
not
see it.
definitely, you're definitely not the same person
Right,
you were when
right.
you came, definitely not.
Not the
For
same
real.
But I.
Now, I'm not saying you achieving by any shape of imagination, but there's some work that's been done, there's some things that's been achieved, and
That's right.
Amen.
That's right. So I'm
Somebody said
sorry.
amen.
I see a lot of different
Yeah.
things around you.
You ain't seen nothing yet?
If, whatever you see the master.
Absolutely.
And you see something reflecting back at you. That's what you see.
And
You
if you
see some
see it
changes
in
in
him,
you.
it's in you. That's what the guru always says.
Right.
If you can see it, you got it.